In the name of God, the most beneficent, the most merciful, may the benedictions of Allah be upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad and his progeny. My brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Last week, we started talking about a very topical issue, the issue of politics and delegates politics, to be more precise, and the way in which it's linked up to our religion, Islam, in what is known as at-ta'sil. To look at a modern issue and see how it relates to your religion and see what you can find from the text of Quran and the text of Hadith and the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the life of the Sahaba, and see where it fits in. That is what is called at-ta'sil. That is what we've tried to do last week, and we've started that conversation, and we couldn't finish the conversation when the time was upon us. And one thing I would like to draw attention to it is the fact that there are this very golden 30 years in the life of the history of Islam that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam talked about when it comes to politics. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Al-khilafatu min ba'di 30 aaman wa yakunu ba'da dhalika mulkan adudan." There's going to be representation of my leadership, representation of my kind of leadership for over 30 years. And anything that comes after those 30 years is going to be just any kind of leadership. Mulkan adudan. It's going to be empire. What does that mean? What it means is that we should try to learn from those 30 years. And which are those 30 years? Immediately the Prophet ﷺ died in the 11th year after Hijrah. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq became the Khalifa, a representative. He is the Amirul Mu'mineen in representation on behalf of the Prophet ﷺ. That is what it means to call a leader Khalifatu Rasulillah ﷺ. He's not a leader on his own right. No, he is a leader in representation on behalf of the Prophet ﷺ. Okay, so Abu Bakr as-Siddiq became Khalifa for 2.5 years. 2 years, 6 months, and he died. After him, Omar became Khalifa for 10 years. That gives you 12.5 years. After him, Uthman ibn Affan became Khalifa for 12 years. Then Ali ibn Abi Talib became Khalifa for 5 years. That gives you how many years? 29 years. That's 29 years, 6 months. And we have the remaining 6 months. Hassan ibn Abi Talib became Khalifa. He was given bay'ah allegiance in Iraq. And after 6 months, he thought, I'm Khalifa of Muslimin in Iraq, and in Sham, Syria today, Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan is another Khalifa. We are dividing the ummah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's not the best way to go. What do? He went and met Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan and said, let's have an agreement about something. Why don't I step down for you? You become the Khalifa, and under one condition. He said, what's the condition? He said, the condition is, after you are not going to give it down to your family. It's not your son that is going to inherit you. You are going to leave it open for the Muslims in the process that is known in Islam as shura. Al-amru yakunu ba'daka shura bayn al-muslimin. It's going to be shura from among Muslims. And Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan accepted. And then Hassan ibn Abi Talib stepped down for him. So if you take the 6 months that Hassan ibn Ali became the Khalifa, plus the 29 years, plus 6 months, you get 30 years. Because 2.5 plus 10 plus 12 plus 5 plus 6 months gives you 30 years. These are the golden 30 years in the Islamic political system. And those 30 years have the stamp of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Al-khilafatu min ba'di 30 aaman wa yakunu min ba'di dhalika mulkan adudan. Which means whatever is happening in our life as far as politics is concerned today, we should try to see if we can find something within those 30 years and see how we can link it up and learn from that. Having said this, now come back to the delegate politics that we started talking about last week. And we remember last week we've mentioned that Umar ibn al-Khattab was stabbed with a knife by Abu Lu'lu'ah, one of the Majus that was hired by someone to kill him. Umar ibn al-Khattab basically was assassinated, right, through Abu Lu'lu'ah, who was hired by someone to assassinate Umar ibn al-Khattab. He was stabbed with a knife, but he died after 3 days. He didn't die immediately. But instantly he was stabbed and taken home. The doctor came and checked him and realized that Umar is not going to make it. And he told Umar that, I'm sorry, sir, you are not going to make it. And immediately Umar realized that. He started preparing for the future of the Ummah. It came in a narration that Abbas ibn Abdul Muttalib went to see Umar and he met him crying. And he was like, really? Are you crying because you're going to die? Umar ibn al-Khattab said, no. Are you crying because you're going to die? And the Prophet ﷺ was pleased with you when he died. It's like a code that the Sahaba use all the time. When they want to remind you how important you are, they tell you, when the Prophet died, he was pleased with you. أتبكي على الموت يا عمر وقد مات رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وهو عنك راض. You cry for dying? When the Prophet died, he was pleased with you. You have nothing to worry about. It's like a code. All the Sahaba use it when they want to remind you how important you are. So he told him that, and Umar responded like, no, how can I cry because I'm going to die? I am crying because of Islam. I'm crying because of Islam. Islam has reached its zenith. Islam has reached its peak. وهو حق على الله أن يضعه ما كان من شيء ارتفع إلا كان حقا على الله أن يضعه. There's nothing that will rise up, no matter what that thing is, except that Allah will bring it down, even if that thing is Islam. وتلك الأيام نداولها بين الناس. We make the days rotate among you. Today it's for you, tomorrow is for another person. That's the essence of the trial in this world. So today Islam is in its peak. It reached its zenith. And I know that based on the law, it's law of diminishing return. That's what is making me cry. And it is in this spirit that Umar ibn al-Khattab started thinking about the solution. What am I supposed to do? What am I going to do? He contemplated a number of ideas. He contemplated just appointing someone to be the next Khalifa. He's even mentioned 3 names of some people. He said, I wish these people are alive. I would have appointed one of them to just be the Khalifa. And then he contemplated appointing either Ali ibn Abi Talib or Uthman ibn Affan. And then he thought, why should I do this when these people can actually choose a leader for themselves through the shura that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prescribed for us in Quran. And then he said, okay, look at what I'm going to do. I'm going to select these 6 people who are going to be the delegates and can decide whatever. They can decide to pick someone outside of this number 6 people. They can decide to pick one of them. Whatever they decide, that is what is going to take place. And I'm choosing some people that when the Prophet ﷺ died, he was pleased with each and every one of them. 6 people. Ali ibn Abi Talib, radiyallahu anhu. Uthman ibn Affan, radiyallahu anhu. Abdul Rahman ibn Auf, radiyallahu anhu. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, radiyallahu anhu. Talha and Zubayr ibn al-Awwam, radiyallahu anhum ajma'in. He has chosen these people. There are a number of riwayat that are coming. Some of them are da'if, very weak riwayat. Some of them are even mawdu'at, fabricated riwayat, that are saying that Umar ibn al-Khattab went to the extent of saying that if you agree, if 4 people agreed, then the remaining 2 that did not agree with them, kill them. That if you have a consensus of 3 people, then, which means the other side is also 3, choose the one in which there is Abdul Rahman ibn Auf, and all of this. This riwayat, none of this riwayat is sahihah. None of this riwayat is sahihah. It's acceptable riwayah. Right? Even though the riwayat came in some really important books. And the method some use to criticize this riwayat is to say that this riwayat came in the books of Shiite people. I don't think that is absolutely correct, because some of this riwayat actually came in Ahl Sunnah books, like Ibn al-Athir, the very voluminous book of Ibn al-Asir known as Al-Kamil fi al-Tarikh, in about 13 volumes. Tabaqat al-Sa'di, Tarikh al-Tabari, and all of this, they all brought this riwayat, even though they are not sahihah. But the point of the matter here is whether this riwayat are sahihah, they are acceptable or not. The point of the whole story is for a Muslim living in the modern time to stop naivety in the way we understand our history. When we talk about our history, we talk about our history with some level of naivety. We want to sometimes discuss these things as if the Sahaba are not human beings. No, despite the fact that all the Sahaba are very good people, very kind people, and all of them are udul. They are of unquestionable integrity. At the same time, they are human beings. They are human beings who dealt with real human issues that we need to also have the brevity to deal with those issues without shying away from those issues. When it comes to politics, treachery is going to happen. When it comes to politics, complexities, a lot of complexities, a lot of maneuvering is going to happen. Why? Because that is the nature of what you have in your hand. Right? The fact that you're a very good person, very pious, very this, very that, doesn't mean that you just go into politics and get it at the flatter of gold. It's not going to happen. And because you're not going to get it on the platter of gold, should you avoid it altogether because it's dirty? You can't do that as well. You have to go get engaged, get involved with politics, because you want to save the ummah. This is the only way out. There's no any other way out. You either join politics or you leave it in the hand of bad people. And when you see bad policies and corruption going on in the society, you don't have any moral right to talk about it. You can't say that our policymakers are corrupt, our leaders are corrupt, our politicians are bad people, if you as a good person, you are not getting involved. It's too dirty for you. Okay, those that think it's not too dirty for them, they are involved. What do? So that is the essence of us studying what has happened in our past. So Omar ibn al-Khattab, as I've mentioned, he has chosen those 6 people. And what did they do? According to some riwayat, some of which I acknowledge that are not actually sahihah, they said Umar ibn al-Khattab told them to show them the importance of the situation. That look, you people decide what happens, but there are conditions. 1, none of them is going to lead the ummah right now, because all of you are interested parties, then we have to have an interim government. So he invited Suhail ibn Sinan al-Rumi and said, you would lead the ummah in the next 3 days after my death. You have only 3 days to lead the ummah. You are to lead the prayer, because at the time, anyone who is leading the prayer is like the Amirul Mu'mineen. He is the president. Because the spiritual leader is the temporal leader at the same time. So you have 3 days to lead the ummah, which means you, the 6 delegates, have only 6 days to take whatever decision. So that's the first thing. The second thing is he was very conscious of the security. So he selected the best from among the Islamic military personnel. He selected the best 50 and said, I need you to be on your guard. Never allow anything, insecurity, to happen as a result of this process going on. You guard the 6 delegates and guard the person leading the ummah, the interim government, for 3 days. So you can't have interim government and give the interim government 6 years. No, it's not. I mean, you don't joke with the fate of ummah. He gave them only 3 days. And you, the 50 commandants of the military, I need you to take charge of all the security issues. And then he came back to the delegate. And he said they advised him to include his son, Abdullah ibn Umar. And Abdullah ibn Umar was more than qualified, but he said, no, I can't include him. I, Umar ibn al-Khattab, have taken enough for my family. If it is good, I've taken enough of it. If it is evil, I've taken enough of it. But because you've insisted, then Abdullah ibn Umar will be with them as a witness. He is just like an international, what do you call it? Observant. So he is with them as an observant, nothing more. They can't appoint him. But it's among the 6 of them. Now we have 7 people. So what do? Some of the riwayat, like as I've mentioned, that are not valid, they said Umar ibn al-Khattab said, okay, Abdul Rahman ibn Auf, you take charge. And if 4 people agree against 2, the 2 have to be eliminated, so that there won't be any fitna. If 3 people agreed and another 3 people agreed on something else, look at the 3 people that has Abdul Rahman ibn Auf among them. You accept them and eliminate the remaining 3. But all these riwayat are not sahih. The valid riwayah is the one that says, which comes in Bukhari, by the way. Immediately after Umar ibn al-Khattab was buried, he died after 3 days. Immediately he was buried right there, and then they started talking about what do we need to do then. Umar ibn al-Khattab gave us 3 days after his death. What do we do? Then Abdul Rahman ibn Auf naturally took charge. And guess what? Money is very important at every point in human history. Abdul Rahman ibn Auf was the wealthiest person from among the Sahaba. He was so rich that after his death, a lot of people suffered with their what do you call it? Hammers, trying to dig his gold. A lot of money, very rich person, very rich. Like by the standard of our time, he is a multi-billionaire. Like the Dangote among the Sahaba. So naturally, the richest people speak. They have their guts. So he started speaking. And they listened to him. He said, okay, I think we need to narrow down the number. Why don't we narrow down the number to 3? Each one of us, let's have 3 among us stepping aside and giving their right to the other 3. Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas was the first. He said, okay, in that case, I'm giving you my right. He has given his right to, I'm stepping aside for you, Abdul Rahman ibn Auf. Talhat ibn Ubaidillah said, okay, I'm giving my right to Uthman ibn Affan. Zubair ibn al-Awwam said, I'm giving my right to Ali ibn Abi Talib. Now the number is narrowed down. What we need to understand here is, these are Sahaba we are talking about. These are 6 among the 10 people that the Prophet promised them paradise while he was still alive. But look at the way they are playing politics without naivety. They didn't say it's too dirty, let's just all of us fear Allah and give it to one person. No. And Omar started it. Because when he was appointing them, he summoned all of them, but they got only the 2 of them. Uthman ibn Affan and Ali ibn Abi Talib were the first to arrive when he sent for them to come and meet him. And when they came, he looked at Ali ibn Abi Talib first and said, oh Ali, the people I'm going to appoint might look at you as someone who was very close to the Prophet and appoint you as the next Khalifa. In case that happens, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't elevate your family above all else. And then he looked at Uthman and said, oh Uthman, you are an elderly person and you are married to 2 daughters of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The people I'm appointing might look at that and decide to appoint you. In case that happens, I need you to fear Allah. Don't elevate your family above all else. And then he went back to Ali ibn Abi Talib again and said, and oh Ali, in case you are not appointed, I need you to fear Allah and be loyal to Uthman. Oh Uthman, in case you are not appointed, I need you to fear Allah and be loyal to Ali ibn Abi Talib. Playing politics, but married with integrity and high moral value. And then now back to the 6 people. Each one of the 3 I've mentioned stepped down to one of the 3. Now we have the number narrowed down to 3. And then Abdurrahman ibn Auf again said, okay, I need one of you to step down, so that we appoint him as the team leader who is going to, as something that you can say is like the chief justice of the federation. He will be the one to bring the next person for giving allegiance and bay'ah. I need one of you to step down. Ali ibn Abi Talib was quiet, Uthman ibn Affan was quiet. Then Abdurrahman ibn Affan, then Abdurrahman ibn Auf said, why don't I step down? Would you accept me as the judge if I step down? They said, why not? He said, okay, I'm stepping down. Now we have only two candidates, Uthman ibn Affan and Ali ibn Abi Talib. And then he looked at Ali ibn Abi Talib and said, Ali, I want to appoint you as the sole candidate so that everyone will vote for you. I'm giving you three conditions. First, you are going to lead the ummah based on the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أبايعك على أن تكون خليفة لرسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم على كتاب الله, and the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. سنة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وسنة الشيخين. Three conditions. The first one, the book of Allah. The second one, the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the third one, the sunnah of the two elderly leaders, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq and Omar ibn al-Khattab. Ali ibn Abi Talib looked at him and said, I accept the first two conditions. The first two conditions I've accepted, but the last one, no. Why? Because it's known that even when they were alive, they consult me when issues come up. I'm more knowledgeable than Abu Bakr. I'm more knowledgeable than Umar. They might be more elderly, but I'm more knowledgeable. They consult me on issues. So why should I follow their footsteps? What if they made mistakes? I'm not. And then he looked at Osman and said, oh Osman, I'm now electing you to be our sole candidate for bay'ah on three conditions. Kitabullah, Sunnati Rasulillah, Sunnati Shaykhain. Do you accept? He said, oh yes, I have accepted. To make sure that there is complete justice. His heart was still thinking that these two people right here, they have equal right. Then he went back to Ali ibn Abi Talib again and said, oh Ali, see what your brother did. He's accepting. Would you accept me to give you bay'ah on three conditions? Ali ibn Abi Talib said no. And what are we learning from this? We are learning morality. When you have principles, you don't shift your ground because of something, even if that thing is being the president of that country. That is what Ali ibn Abi Talib just taught the whole ummah right there and then. Would you accept? This is a second chance given to him. He said no. I would rather keep my integrity and my principle. Kitabullah, yes. Sunnatu Rasulullah, yes. Sunnatu Shaykhain, no. They are more knowledgeable. They consult me on issues. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned that in kuntu madinat al-ilmi fa aliyun babuha. If I am the city of knowledge, Ali is the door of that city. So no. And then he went back to Uthman. Uthman, would you accept the three conditions? He said yes. Again, that was my principle. I worked with them. He was very close to them. Uthman ibn Affan was working together with Umar. They were like partners in the office. And when Umar was the Khalifa, he was like one of the lieutenants. He was one of the cabinet members. So he knew them very well. He was very comfortable following their sunnah and footsteps. Abdurrahman ibn Auf went back to Ali the third time. And Ali still insisted no. And he went back to Uthman the third time. Uthman accepted and said yes. Said, then I have given you the bay'ah to be our sole candidate. And then he held his hand and brought him out. They were in a room, brought him out, and they went to the mosque, and everyone gave him bay'ah to be the Khalifa of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Look at the transparency. Look at the high moral values, and compare that with the way in which our delegates are selected today. Omar ibn al-Khattab disqualified another person just because this person was close to him. People who are being disqualified because they are close to some people who are very high in the society. And we do the exact opposite of that today. Right? We should fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Politics is not something that we can avoid. If you avoid politics, politics followed you to your home, to your office, to your farm, to your business, to your market, anywhere you are. Politics will follow you there. But when you are to play politics as a Muslim, you have to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And being God conscious doesn't mean being naive. That is not what it means. It doesn't mean that you just sit back and think that things will happen. Things are not going to happen. You have to do the right rituals for the things to happen. أقول ما تسمعون أستغفر الله العلي العظيم لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم.
Mm-hmm.